it really hamstrings you if you don't take even one part of this process seriously, which is kind of the reason why we started all the way from the songwriting process, because if you don't take any one of these seriously, then nobody else will take you seriously either. Welcome to the Prolific Super Producer Podcast. I'm Tyson, and here's Nathan, and we are going to be talking about how to release a hit song in this episode. So if you have songs that you've either written, finished, and you're ready to release them, you're not sure exactly how to go about that, we're going to be covering all of that, as well as, even if you haven't written your song yet, how to write a song that's actually going to perform well once it's released, so you are confident going into the release process and knowing that your song is going to perform well. All of that to come and more in this episode. Let's dive right in. All right, so the very first part of this process of releasing a song is actually writing the song. You need to have a song written before you can release it. This is kind of goes without saying, but at the same time, there are certain things we can do at the songwriting stage before we release it to ensure that we actually have a hit song to release, to then have a hit song release. Nathan, do you want to just talk about how to write a song in like 3 easy steps?
Well, you know what? I actually have five steps that we could walk through, and this is just some goodies right off the bat. Wanting to make some songs, you're like, dude, I can't even finish my song. I'd like to release songs, but I'm not releasing as many as I'd like to. Well, the key is to finish songs, right? Finished songs are the songs that go somewhere. That's something I like to say a whole bunch because it's so true. I've had to learn this. I've had to learn to change my workflow in order to be more efficient while making songs. I have a free guide. You can go to finishsongsguide.com. Again, completely free. It's just a PDF. You download it. It's 5 steps. It walks you through step 1, step 2, all the way to the end to start a song from scratch. Or one of my favorite ways to use this workflow, because this is literally the exact workflow that I still use to make songs, is you can plug in an unfinished song. So maybe you've got music and you got a little bit of some gibberish melody or something, or you got a hook, you got some lyrics. You can plug in your song to this formula, pick up on step 3 or 4 or whatever, and cruise all the way to the finish line. So that's just a goodie for you. If you'd like to go a little bit deeper, then I'm going to go here and just a quick 30-60 second sum up, finishsongsguide.com for that process. But yeah, overall, right, making a song. Gee, well, we have to write the thing, right? We're going to use lyrics and melody to tell a story. We're going to sum up the story in a chorus, and we're going to use this song, have a chorus in there, and we're going to use some production to help tell that story even better, because really at its core, a song is a story. If you've tuned into some of the past episodes, we've talked in depth about all this, so you can find those episodes. But we can use production to amplify that story, and then use the final, polishing processes, right, of mixing and mastering to help make it presentable and make it sound good and make it pleasing to people's ears. But when it comes to releasing a song, you have to have a song to release. This is the big thing that I would say when it comes to writing a hit song. And we kind of talked about this at one of our very first episodes, is think about a hit song for you. If you're crippled by trying to write a song that you're comparing to the top 40 consistently or the top 10, and it's just never matching up or something, and that's causing you to not release music, that's the wrong mindset to have, because chances are any of those people that are in the top 40, top 10, right, they've probably been making music for a long time. If there's any song that's gotten more than thousands of streams on Spotify or something, people have probably been at it for a little bit. So think about hit song for you. How can you beat your last song? How can you beat your last chorus? I think that's, really what I would want to hone in on for song making, right? To back it all the way up before distributing, do you have a song that resonates, that's a good story, that has a catchy hook, that is actually going to resonate with people that you believe in? I don't know if you want to drill down even further there, Tyson, but I don't want to hang us up, because this is about releasing a track. But
yeah, the song is really what we're releasing, right? And what we're basically selling to people to engage with. And if our song isn't engaging, if it's not compelling, then no other effort that we possibly do, regardless of your distribution plan, your release plan, your marketing plan, all of that stuff doesn't matter if the song isn't good. So you need to ensure that your song is good. We haven't really talked about this on the podcast, but I actually have a company that I work with. It's called Night Owl Music Group. We work with independent artists to really launch their careers in music, whether that's launching them from nothing, they've never released a song, to having a hit song released on their very first release, or if it's just taking you from that situation where you're getting maybe a couple hundred streams a month and you just can't seem to break through that plateau into the thousands or tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of streams per month. We help you get there. What we do, though, specifically in this stage of the process to ensure that your song is good, is what we call a pizza parlor test. And this is to test if your hook is good enough to actually produce the song. So you're not wasting time producing a song that isn't actually going to go anywhere. Really ninja stuff. So if you're at all nerdy or into testing things, then you're going to love this, like me. So what we do though is we take the hook of the song and we write multiple songs for each artist. So, or we have the artist write multiple songs before they release it. So we have between say 4 and 6 songs that we have written, and then we take the hook, whether that's the chorus or just another part of the song that we think is the hook of the song, and then we actually test that. We put that in front of a strange audience. So the audience knows nothing about the artist, and they have no personal relationship with them. Because the biggest issue with trying to get feedback for your song is we usually go to our spouses, our girlfriends or boyfriends, our friends, our coworkers, whoever we're relatively close to, and say, hey, what do you think of this song? The issue with that is that they are going to value your relationship over the feedback that they give you. They're not going to be completely honest with their feedback because they don't want to damage the relationship with you. They're going to flatter you a little bit too much. They're either going to tell you it's great when it's just okay, or they're going to tell you that it's
okay when it's bad.
Exactly. This is the danger of asking people you're familiar with for feedback in your song. So what we do is we just take that entirely mentality out of it. Go ahead and ask your friends if you just want like a nice ego boost.
Sure.
Great to do that. To actually get a good test to ensure that it performs with a broad audience, you need to test it with a broad audience first. And so we put that in front of it. We measure engagement, we measure reactions, we measure a lot of different things about the song with that cold audience. We usually do this through running ads for the song. We just basically have a demo version of the hook and we put that in front of them. We measure how engaging is it. And then we pick the best song of those 4 to 6, and we can measure that against other releases that we've done with other artists, as well as against the same, songs that we have in that batch, and determine which song is actually the best. And then we are able to produce that song knowing that if we get that hook in front of an audience, they're going to engage with it. They're going to be compelled to listen to it more. It is a game changer when you actually implement this, because it takes you from not knowing if your song is good to being confident with your song. And that's half the battle, is being confident in the music that you're releasing, to then put forth that extra 10% of effort to ensure that you're putting all of your eggs in that basket for that release. Because a lot of times, if we're not super confident with our release, either the mix didn't turn out like we wanted it to, or we're not sure if the song is good or not, we won't go in 110%. But this allows us to be confident with our release. That's the pizza parlor test. It's the only way that I know how to ensure that your song is going to be well received before you even produce it. So you don't waste time or money producing a song that's not actually good.
I think that's sweet. I think it makes a lot of sense. I think there's something to be said for being able to test the songs you're making. And like you said, spouses, family members, close friends, maybe you can get a feel, especially if you really know them that well, where you can tell, oh, they're actually reacting to this right now, or it's just one of the ones, right? It's not totally invaluable, but it's a lot more valuable, like Tyson is saying, to try to get feedback from people who almost have no emotional investment in you, So it's like objective feedback. Yes, this there's something here, or there's something not, or there's something isn't here. And I think you could even back that all the way to, I would say you shouldn't even be really sharing any music with somebody unless you are feeling it in the process too. More often than not, us as the artist, I think we can be a great gauge for a song, but sometimes we can't, right? Sometimes we think what we think is going to be, this has happened to me a lot, what we think is the banger is the one that flops, and the one that you think is going to flop is the one that goes and often does a whole bunch of stuff, right? So it needs to start with you being confident with what you created, like Tyson said, it being no matter what song that you have, that you are confident in what you created and you feel good about it and you get good vibes from it. But then it's most important, I think, especially if you're talking about trying to be professional, trying to do something with your music, it's got to resonate. It's got to resonate with people, and it's got to resonate with more people than just your friends and family. And so I think Tyson's test is a great practical, super tactical thing anybody can do to just get feedback, get some more data about your song. Love that.
That's your ultimate goal, is to release this to strangers who don't actually know you. And so taking your finished song and putting that out in front of people. So why not just put it out there a little bit earlier to test to see if people actually like it? Go that direction. So that's the whole concept and idea behind that. So the next part about actually producing a hit song release or having a hit song release is ensuring that we have a brand that backs up that song. So we have a finished song now. It's not necessarily produced, mixed, and mastered yet, but we have a song. And at this point in the game is when I would recommend determining, especially if you haven't released any music yet, what your brand actually is. And the easiest way that I have to describe what a brand is pick a singular value that you have. So this is a value that ties into your music and ultimately something that you strongly care about. One of the best examples that I have of this in a real life artist is Tom McDonald. Love him or hate him, he has the strongest brand that I know of any artist. And it makes him one of the biggest independent artists in the world because people who love him really love him and people who hate him really hate him. And it's actually a good thing because he stands, if you don't know Tom McDonald, he's a white rapper who raps about conservative American values. That's it. That's his whole brand is just conservative American values. And so anything that supports that one value is conservative America, then he supports. If it's against it, then he doesn't support it. And because he popularized that stance so much, he has a ton of diehard fans and also a lot of haters, but it doesn't matter because he has equally number of fans who just would go to war for him. That is essentially what a brand is in essence. In practice, especially for independent artists, when we're first getting started, we may not know what that value is. It's good to try to pick something and lean in that direction so all of our content, all of our stories that we tell ties back into that one value that we have because it just makes it easier. It makes it feel cohesive from just a content standpoint. So people feel like once they know you, if they agree with that one value, that they would be then attracted to you and really dive into you and your brand. And then from a more practical standpoint, moving that to all of our images, our artwork, our posts that we put out there, try to ensure that those are cohesive. You're using similar colors, you're using a similar vibe. You're not gonna have rainbows and butterflies over here, and then you're gonna have like skeletons and ghosts over here. Like it just doesn't, it doesn't work. And people BS meters are way up here nowadays. And
my goodness, yes.
If they see anything that just doesn't feel right, they're gone. They're gone. They're not going to give you a second chance. They're just gone. Make sure that everything you produce, especially for a single release, is incredibly cohesive across the board, from your website to your landing pages to your link tree to your Spotify profile to your actual Instagram and Facebook and TikTok. Everything needs to be cohesive. Anything to add there, Nathan?
No, I think that's great. And I think too, it's like when you're talking about like the one value, right? Like that's just making it relatable, right? Like it's easier to listen to music from somebody when there's already common ground there. I just feel like it's like with anything. It is not even music specific, right? Like it's a way that you as an artist are building rapport with a potential listener of yours. If you already have common ground there, much more likely to listen to a song, you know? And so I just think that's a great, again, another practical way to make it easy or easier for people to give your music a chance. And that's really what we're fighting for, right? Is attention, to just give your song the opportunity to be heard. If someone took the effort to click over to your Spotify page from your Instagram or whatever because they saw you talking about something that means a lot to you, if someone even got to your Spotify page, that's huge. And that's a massive win. I just think we undervalue that a lot. I think that's a really great practical thing to like just, build relationship with people, you know, instead of just being like, here's my latest song. And that like if all you ever talk about, here's my latest single, here's my latest album. So excited about this track I produced with blah, 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 blah. Like, you know what I mean? Like no one cares. Maybe some people do, your friends and family or whatever. But like, if you're not taking time to like build something that's cohesive, that's relatable, that can give people a reason to kind of, vibe with you for a second before listening to your music, I think that's really powerful.
That's undervalued. While your song should be able to stand on its own, it's not going to keep a person engaged. You'll create a listener that way, but you're not going to create a fan that way.
There we go.
Adding that other personal value element is going to create a fan for life versus just a casual listener on Spotify. Yeah. Those are very different, especially when you're talking about monetizing your audience around your music. It's so much more valuable to have a fan than just a listener. Some people just are not going to agree with the values that you hold, and that's okay. So don't be afraid of that. You're going to get an equal amount of haters as lovers, and that's totally fine. Moving on from this, trying to keep us on track here. Next part of the process is, now that we have our brand, we want to produce music that's going to emphasize that brand. So this is why I don't encourage people to fully produce their song and do the whole mixing and mastering thing before they have their brand figured out, because you want it to match, right? If you have a very like retro feel on your brand, you want to create a retro feeling in your music as well. So you want that to be cohesive all the way across the board. There is something to be said for professional production for your songs. So make sure that you're diving into the education that you need to in order to produce your song well if you want to have a hit song. Because an experience a couple days ago, I was talking with a friend and she was just, catching up with me, and she wanted to know, like, oh, what have you been working on recently? So I shared a song that we had been working with an artist actually through Night Owl Music Group. And so I played his song, and the second it came on, she was like, oh, he's actually really good.
Yeah.
The irony is that he hadn't even started singing yet. She didn't know if he was good or not. It was just that split-second decision of, oh, he's good because the mix and master and production are well done. The mixing and mastering is not going to make your song, but it's going to either make people perceive you as higher quality than you actually are, or they're going to be perceived as lower quality than you actually are if your mix and master is not good. Yes. So it's just this like initial gut reaction of yes or no from a listener. And especially when we're talking about putting that on like a playlist, if people's gut reaction is, they're going to skip it.
Yeah, 100%.
And so they're just going to go to the next song. You're not going to get that stream. You're not going to get their attention. And ultimately, you could have just missed out on a fan for life had you had a professional mix and master for your song. So that is the value of mixing and mastering when it comes to release. It's not going to make a bad song good, but it's going to give your song a chance for listeners to actually engage with it the whole way through.
Yes, 100%. And I want to say too that bar, that barrier to entry for an average listener is much lower than we think, right? Like I think a lot of artists make the mistake of trying to make songs for mixing engineers, or like make songs for people who have the nerdy ears and knowledge to be able to decipher everything that's going on. When the reality is, like, if you're just trying to make a connection with listeners who become fans, like Tyson was just talking about, the barrier to entry is actually a lot lower. And all you have to do is look at what's happening with short form content right now, like with TikTok and songs that are happening. I mean, some of the stuff, Tyson and I, our ears are probably like, what? I mean, how is this even popping off right now? You know what I mean? But we're the minority, you know what I mean? The majority are people who just want to be able to hear a vibe and just want to hear something like, oh, it sounds good. That sounds like something. Yes, you need to get it to that point. So you need to get the knowledge and tools and learn how to get it to that point. But I think that bar is actually a lot lower than we might think on the back end as the artist, as the producer and stuff like that. I don't know what you think about that, Tyson, but I used to think that. I used to like overproduce. It's like, oh, I only had to do this much,
A lot of that is all ties back to just those foundations of mixing and mastering. If you nail those foundational elements of your mix, it's good enough. It is good enough to then be a hit song. And if you want to learn what those foundations actually are, then you can go to promixformula.com and you can access a free course, my gift to you, to learn those critical foundations of your mix to then get it up to a level where it could be a hit song. It's not as difficult as people like to make it out to be. Very straightforward if you learn these concepts well. Teaches you all my most powerful concepts when talking about creating a song that could be a hit song and mixing it well. So it's not going to be super advanced. It's not super technical, but it is super powerful and even better than all of those, YouTube tips and tricks videos that you've been watching and binging on YouTube. Make sure that you go check out that. It's at promixformula.com and you can get access to that for free.
I just have to say, if you're tired of duct taping together all these YouTube tutorials, that's what I had to do. If a resource like this freaking existed back like 10, 12 years ago for me, I would have jumped on it. So if you can be a really good songwriter, you could have a great voice, you could have like everything going for you. But the fact is, if it doesn't sound good enough, it's really hard to do anything with it. If you feel like that's a kind of a weak point in your workflow right now, get the training. It's free. And go start finding out how to give your songs the best chance of being heard, and more importantly, like being continued to be listened to give your songs a chance.
So let's move on to the next stage of the process, which is getting all of your visuals nailed for your social media and then also your release itself. So this includes photos. So you need good professional photos of yourself. Whether you have a friend who's a photographer, I would try to seek out somebody who at least does this professionally.
Does it.
Whether they charge you or not is irrelevant. You want to find somebody who's actually good at taking photos though. Honestly, you only need to do this like once maybe once a year.
Yeah.
And then you'll have all of your profile pictures, all of your profile Spotify pictures, all of your background photos, all of your even photos that you post to Instagram directly. All of that stuff will be taken care of for you in one session.
And repurpose. Yeah.
Yeah, for months and months and months. Don't overlook this as not important, because it is. People are going to, if they land on your profile, they're going to judge your profile picture.
Yeah. We all do it. Yeah.
If it's you as like an 8-year-old with your camera in the bathroom, like they're going to judge you and they're going to say like, this dude's not serious. But if you have a professional photo, all of a sudden people's perception of you is that much higher, and they're going to be like, oh, this person's actually taking themselves seriously. If you take you seriously, other people will take you seriously as well.
Huge.
So that's one thing that's just overlooked in so many releases that I've encountered, and it really hamstrings you if you don't take even one part of this process seriously, which is kind of the reason why we started all the way from the songwriting process, because if you don't take any one of these seriously, then nobody else will take you seriously either.
100%. It's that confidence. It goes back to that confidence you were talking about before too. So underrated. So get the aesthetic down and just pick something. Oh my goodness, don't overthink this. Like if you got songs waiting to release and you're hung up on your photo looking a certain way or something, I don't know, like just get it the best it can and then get the songs out here.
Yeah, it is more important to just get it done and get it out there than it is to try to perfect. While I do say, yes, you need to take it seriously, that doesn't mean...
Hey, don't be sloppy. Get it on. Get it good enough.
Nathan, do you want to talk about artwork?
Yeah, so I have a pretty strong opinion about this, but it's tethered. So don't hear me say don't care about your artwork, but what I think when it comes to album artwork, cover art, is we're spending too much time. Like you're trying to create album artwork as an artist, right? A music artist. You're trying to impress graphic designers. You know what I mean? Like professional illustrators or something. It doesn't need to be this Mona Lisa of a cover art. And I think there's some best practices here that we can talk about, but I think it's helpful to equate a cover art to a YouTube thumbnail. It's like, okay, you got contrast on there. You've got something that pops. You've got, colors again that kind of makes sense with your vibe. Some way to stick out this album artwork if people are scrolling on Spotify, similar to if you're in the YouTube world, right? But thumbnails are very important in the YouTube world of scrolling and something sticks out, catches your attention, kind of starts a story almost. All that stuff, good best practices, abide by those, but don't abide by them so much to, again, where you're trying to perfect your photos. Now you're trying to perfect your artwork. And if you're someone that's trying to perfect your artwork and perfect your photos, you're probably someone that was like me years ago, who was also trying to perfect my music all over the place. And now all I'm doing as an independent artist is just crippling myself because I have perfectionism across all of these different layers. And I'm moving so freaking slow because it takes me twice the amount of time to work on all these different parts of the process. So don't be sloppy. Do the best you can. I think don't overthink the artwork. The artwork serves its purpose. Your song is kind of the thing we're trying to get people to listen to. I don't know what you think about that, Tyson, but...
No, I think there's a very fine line between taking things seriously and trying to be a professional about it, but also not getting hung up on the process. One way that I think is really helpful in this is if you're not that visual of a person, I am admittedly not a visual inclined person. I will hire other people to do that stuff for me.
Yeah,
it's not that expensive to hire somebody on Fiverr to put some actually really good album artwork together. The one tip that I do have for you is that the point of your album artwork is to get attention. It's kind of like a YouTube thumbnail. Think about YouTube and when you're like scrolling through and you see a really high contrasting, bright YouTube thumbnail, your attention is directed towards that. You're more likely to click on it, right? Once I have your attention, if it's then attractive, then I'm going to click on it and go watch that video. It's the same thing with your song. If they're scrolling through Spotify and all of a sudden they see some really cool album artwork that has bright colors or high contrasting colors, then all of a sudden I'm more attracted to it. If it's, the vibe that I'm looking for at that point in time, I might click on it. And that is the whole point of your artwork, is to get attention to then listen to the music. The music is secondary to the artwork when it comes to just casual scrolling. And so that is the true value of good artwork. That does not mean it needs to be to the nth professional. Sometimes more complicated artwork actually performs worse because it's not contrasting enough. It's like a random point, but it's kind of like tattoos, because like I have a sleeve obviously and it's very detailed. And so if you see me from a distance, it just looks like a green blob on my arm. But if you walk up really close, then you can tell what it is. But from a distance, you may not be as attracted to my tattoo, say, versus somebody who has a very traditional American style tattoo that has very loud colors, very heavy contrasts between the colors.
Yeah.
And there's some like white space in the middle between it. It's not just saturated like my arm is. So that is an example of detailed versus high contrasting artwork. So the high contrasting artwork is not detailed necessarily.
Yeah, much like more simple, like simple the better, like less busy, right? To make something pop easier. So I think a super simple, like tactical thing that I've started doing, right, is like whatever you're doing, whether you are creating the album artwork yourself or you are outsourcing through like Fiverr or something like that. Whenever you get it back or you have a mock-up, right, like zoom out in your viewer, in your desktop or your phone or whatever, zoom out so that image is like super tiny on your screen, about the size it would be on someone's phone on Spotify or something, and see, does it stick out to you? Does it make sense? Or is there too much going on and your eyes actually not really drawn to anything, like Tyson was saying, because it all just looks like one big mess? That could be a pretty helpful tactical thing you could do to like test it.
I'm going to start doing that. That's awesome.
I got that from someone. I don't know. I can't remember now, but it is good advice.
At this point, just a quick recap. We've written our song, we've defined our brand, we've produced the song, and then we've gotten that song fully produced, so mixed and mastered.
Right.
And then we are finished with all of our still photos. So we've gotten
The
our photos
aesthetic
and then our
is
artwork, anything that doesn't move. Now we are ready to move into moving pictures, aka videos. And this will be a lot of, there's two categories here that we like to separate our content. And the first one is discovery content. So this is anything that's going to attract a stranger to your brand. So this is going to be a quick introduction. Like, don't forget that most people who see your content may not actually know you. So you have to say, hi, my name's Tyson. I wrote this song about blah, blah, blah. Here's my song. And then start with the hook of the song. It's attractive. It's going to grab their attention. Again, the high contrasting colors is another great way to grab people's attention right away. So then they actually will be introduced to you and then also your music. One warning I have here is make sure that any content that you create for strangers, for this discovery content, is approachable by a stranger. Don't make any inside jokes. And then also don't forget to introduce yourself, because again, most people don't know you and they do want to know you. Make it about your music. Don't make this about your funny cat who fell off your porch and then landed in a 5-gallon bucket. Like, it's funny and it's engaging and it might attract people to you, but they're not attracted to you for the right reason. They just want now more comedic content. They don't want more music. Any discovery content you create is actually attracting the right people for the right reasons. They should be attracted to you for your music. And this is a big issue I see in a lot of female, especially female pop artists. They, are putting their thirst traps out there on Instagram, but that's getting the wrong type of attention. You don't want a bunch of dudes following you because they think you're pretty. You want a bunch of people following you because they think you're a good musician, a good artist.
That's right.
Make sure that you're focusing on that when you're creating this discovery content, making it for the right people, for the right reasons to engage with you. Yeah, do you want to tackle the next type of content?
So if you got discovery content, right, like pieces of content that are floating out there, little bits of you, inviting people, hey, what's up, like bringing just eyeballs to you, and then you have interest, and people have interest so much that they hit follow, or right, they hang around so much that they're starting to transition from listener to fan, right? If you've got these fans, the last thing you want to do is ignore them and forget about them, right? So a good piece of content to create, another bucket, so to speak, in addition to discoverable content, would be something that's like community based. Right? This is like really relational content where you're making something that doesn't have the sole objective of blowing up or bringing as many people, as many eyeballs as possible. The objective is optimizing for depth of relationship and like optimizing for, the people that have already chosen to commit to you and that have already are already clearly showing that they like your music, they like you. So you want to make content for those people to nurture those fans. And so this content could be a lot more personal. Maybe Tyson, you give examples of what this could look like, but this content could typically be a little more personal, where like you can kind of let your hair down a little bit. You're really being yourself. I mean, always be yourself, but maybe you're sharing more about your story and you're giving people even more of a reason to now care about you, or you're explaining the meaning behind a certain song and they're like, oh, that's what it's just an opportunity to kind of nurture the people who are already in your circle, to keep them around and to give them even more of a reason to rock with you,
So yeah, a couple examples of content that you could create as an independent artist that follows under this type of content is talking about your everyday life and the stories that happen. So think of any like interesting conversations you had in the last week, or interesting encounters at the grocery store, or it could be extremely mundane. However, make sure that you are telling it as a story and that it ties back into your personal brand. Whatever value you chose earlier, make sure that your stories tie into that thing. So, if I was going to be Tom McDonald, just for example, because it's easy, right? And then I see some protesters at the Capitol building, because I live in the capital of Idaho. If you see some protesters, holding some whatever flags against whatever policy that I disagree with, then I would be able to take a quick video of them, and then I would flip the camera around at myself and talk about how I disagree with this and defending my political point of view. The point is not to change their mind. That's never going to change their mind. But people who already agree with me are going to be more attracted to me.
Yes,
so it's the same. It's deepening that relationship through shared value. And again, by having a consistent value, then you can constantly reiterate that, and then people are going to like you more and more and more who already agree with you. So that is the point of this content, is to build and deepen that relationship. And because they were initially attracted to you for your music, they're going to be that much more inclined to go pre-save your song, to go stream your single when it comes out, to stream your album when it comes out, etc. And as long as it's good music, they're going to really engage with it a lot and stream it over and over and over and over. Distribution. So Nathan, do you want to take on distribution?
Yeah, totally. So distribution it can be a confusing topic. I don't know, where a lot of people don't understand it. And nowadays too, there's just so many options for, companies that are distributors that will take your song that you've created and finished, and they will place it for you. They'll get it into Spotify. They'll get it into Apple Music. They'll get it into places that are publicly accessible, right? They're the middleman for you. Thing with music distributors, I'm sure if someone's listening is what's the best one? That's a common question. What's the best one? And I can say from firsthand experience, as of right now of this recording, I'm actually in the process of fully switching distributors, because the distributor that I was with, which was a smaller one, a little more kind of mom and pop shop sort of independent distributor, went out of business. And so I just got an email that was all of a sudden hey, we're no longer doing this thing. So I don't know about your songs. You might want to move them somewhere else, because we can't guarantee Spotify will keep them up. What? Are you kidding me? So anyway, so I'm in the middle of moving things right now, and I'm doing all the research and looking around at everybody, TuneCore, DistroKid, Ditto. I mean, there's AWOL, right? There's so many different options out there. I don't think Tyson and I are here to give you one, to pitch one specifically to you. I think I would rather encourage you to do your research and look at these different distributors, because different distributors, especially now, all of them functionally do the same thing: get your music to where you would like it to go. The difference is all these different add-ons and tiers. Some distributors will throw in marketing things and things to help you like that. There's just a bunch of different breakdowns of the services that can come bundled with the main function of just getting your music out there. So you have to do your research. You just have to look, and you have to decide what's important to you. Then the only other advice I would give there as you're researching is to do some research into payout rates, right? Because different streaming services have different payout rates, but different distributors have different payout rates too. So I think it's important to, if you're trying to move like a business and you're trying to think about this music stuff as a legit thing, you probably want to care about how much the distributor you're choosing is going to be able to throw back your way, right? If you're hoping to make money from your music. So I would also say that, and all that stuff's publicly available. It's just Google searches and stuff like that, find some legit reports. But that's kind of my 2 cents when it comes to distributor. You can't really go too wrong in the sense that just they're all going to do the same thing. You know what I mean? So I think it's more about, narrowing it down, finding out what's important to you, what you're comfortable with. There's some distributors that will let you distribute for free, but the only thing is they're actually going to take a cut of that, So you just got to decide what's important to you, and then look out those payout rates too. With Tyson, you're in this world a lot, you know what I mean? With your artist development and all that stuff. So what's your 2 cents there? Yeah, no, I would just kind of second everything you already said. I think the biggest thing is artists don't realize that the payout rates are not the same for each distributor. It's based on that distributor's relationship with these platforms like Spotify. So if you are an artist with Universal Music Group, you get a much higher payout than an independent artist who's distributing their song through DistroKid. Very different, because the label essentially is acting as the distributor on label artists and label projects. So just recognize there is a difference, and then not every single distributor is created equal, because they have different relationships, and different, distributors are way easier to use. For example, DistroKid, in my opinion, is by far the easiest and most approachable place to start. So if you're just getting started and you just want to get it done,
DistroKid's the way to go. But also recognize you're not stuck with a single distributor once you've chosen one. You can always switch later. It's a little bit of work, sure, but it's ultimately not that big of a deal to switch to a different distributor once you've chosen one. You can always switch later. You can distribute different songs through different distributors. Just don't release the same song through different distributors, because then you'll get in trouble with Spotify. But barring that scenario, don't overthink this distribution thing, especially when you're first getting started. Just get it done and get it out there, because 100%. What's most important is gathering that initial fan base for yourself, not getting the last penny out of every single stream that you possibly could.
100%.
Or fraction of penny, I should say.
Yeah, but at this point,
getting it done at this point in the game, if you're just getting started. If you're already somewhat established, then I would recommend really taking a deep dive onto various distributors and which one's really going to be the best for you. Again, my inclination personally is always towards what has the highest payout rate, because if I'm going to get hundreds of thousands of streams or millions of streams, that could be a significant chunk of change. That could be the difference between getting paid $2,000 a month and $2,400 a month, and that extra $400 means a lot. So make sure that you're choosing one once you reach that stage in the game. But again, you can always switch later, so you're never stuck in any one distributor, and so don't overthink it when you're first getting started. Very last point is paid ads. So this is a hot topic with a lot of different independent artists and also people trying to teach you music marketing stuff.
Oh my goodness, yeah.
Do paid ads work? That's always the question. Are they valuable? Do they work? And I'm going to say yes and no, because if you don't have anything working organically, meaning you're putting out free content on social media and people are naturally going to Spotify to stream your song, if none of that activity is happening, do not run paid ads. You need to figure that element out first. I like to use the analogy of kale. Most people don't really love raw kale if you just feed them raw kale. So if I'm trying to feed people raw kale, my friends and family on my social media platform, and they don't like it, if I pay to then give that to a stranger, they're not going to like it any more than my friends and family do. This is the analogy of paying to put my music that's not that good in front of an audience that's even going to care less than my friends and family do. My friends and family might be willing to just wrestle through it and chew the kale because they like me.
Because they care about you,
versus the strangers who don't have any relationship with me, they're much less likely to chew through my hard, raw kale. If you have something working already for free, then you can use paid ads to add fuel to the fire.
Yeah.
If you're in that position of you have, some traction on, and we're not talking about a ton of traction. We're talking about maybe a couple hundred listeners on Spotify organically from your social media platforms and normal organic content. If that's working for you, then I would say paid ads can be worth it for you. Just recognize that the time horizon of actually getting your money back is very long. So when I spend money on ads today, I expect to make that back 12 months from now. That's my time horizon. So just recognize it's a long-term plan and don't expect to get that money back overnight, let alone the whole 3-month delay in payouts from Spotify and Apple Music.
Right.
That being said, when you're running ads, remember 2 things that are going to set you up for success. Number 1 is remember what your brand is. Make sure that all of your ad content centers around your brand, mostly visual, actually. Because if you have an ad that is blue and then you send them to your link tree, which is red, people bounce. Meaning that people will leave your page and they will not follow through. They will not go to Spotify. They will not stream your song. So if that's your ultimate goal, is to get people to Spotify to stream your song, make sure that it's a cohesive experience all the way through. If there's anything off in the entire process, people are just going to be like, no, I don't think so. Their BS meters are way up here and you've lit up their brain. They may not be able to actually articulate what's wrong, but they're like, just something doesn't feel right. I'm gone. That's the reality of the people nowadays. And so you just have to deal with that reality when you're running paid ads. And then the second thing that I want to throw out there is make sure you know what your objective is. And objective being, what do you want people to actually do? Because there's several different things you can have them do. You could run ads to get more Instagram followers. You could run ads to get more TikTok followers. You could run ads to get them on your email list. You could run ads to get people to Spotify to stream your song. Those are all legitimate uses of ad spend to get more attention around your brand and your music. You have to decide what is actually best for you in your stage of your career. So I've run ads for all three of those purposes at one time or another, done well with those ads. But you need to determine what is your actual ultimate goal with those ads, and then be intentional about being attractive to that ultimate goal, being attractive to your potential audience, and then attracting them towards whatever your goal is, whether that's email subscribers, more followers on social media, or ultimately getting them over to Spotify streaming your song.
100%. And then it's not a cheat code. That's another thing too, right? If we were just talking about in episodes, right? Oh, mastering is going to save my song. It's like, no, we needed to deal with that way back. Maybe we need to deal with that all the way back at the lyrics, like, so just thinking, okay, that's the cheat code. That's how I'm going to blow up. That's how my song's like, oh, I just run paid ads and that's all I do. And you're skipping you're not even willing to plant the seeds of just doing organic content and committing that process. So I really appreciate that take, because it seems like, ads, like you said, are a hot topic, and we've got some extremists out there that are hardcore no, hardcore yes. But I think, at least in my opinion, it's somewhere in the middle, right? And this push and pull between, you're already committing to content, you're already committing to putting yourself out there, you're working hard on your songs, and you're waiting for something to prove itself that kind of warrants the ad spend, right? I love that approach, because I think especially, right, if you're making your own songs in your bedroom, you're trying to keep costs low, right? So if you're just blowing all of your money on ads when really, hey, your songs need to be mixed better. You know what I mean? There could be better places to funnel the limited money that you have in order to give your songs the best shot. And so I just appreciate that kind of middle ground approach there, that yes, they do work. No, they don't work. Yes, you could do them. No, you don't have to. Yes, they can help. No, they don't always. You know what I mean? So I think that's really good equipment for people,
One thing is, if you want to dive deeper on this whole topic of releasing songs, I did create a full training that you can just go access. It's completely free at nightowlmusicgroup.com. There will be a link on that page to go to the free training to engage with this topic more, of how to actually produce a song that's good, how to produce a song that is cohesive with your entire brand, dealing with your brand, all of this stuff in a little bit more detail. It's a full, I think, 30-minute training on all of this stuff. So if you want to go access that, again, that's at nightowlmusicgroup.com, and you can learn more there about both Night Owl Music Group and what I'm doing there, but also get some more additional training on this whole topic of releasing songs in general. So
fire, such a good resource. Yes.
The last thing that we would ask is that if you liked it, then leave a review for us, mostly to tell us what you want to learn more about. If you want to learn more about this release process, running paid ads, about how to get good photos, how to hire freelancers for your music, all of this stuff, or anything to do with music production as an independent artist, let us know. We are here to help you and serve you in any way we can. So make sure you leave a review and then ask us what episode you want us to create, and we will go ahead and do that for you. So thanks again for watching, and we will see you in the next episode of the Prolific Super Producer Podcast. I got it right this time.
Let's go.